While the NFL often tries to portray its players as heroes, here is how one man arguably became its greatest villain. His name is Herschel Walker. Please note, the story to follow is just a portion of what occurred. Some material has been found so troubling, such as unscrupulous payoffs, graphic details, and violent particulars, that we've decided not to include them in their totality here. In the small town of Wrightsville, Georgia, a story began that would captivate America before unraveling into one of sport's most cautionary tales. Herschel Jr. Walker, born March 3, 1962, started life as one of 7 children to Willis and Christine Walker. Standing 6 feet 1 inch and eventually weighing a chiseled 225 pounds, Walker portrayed himself as the quintessential American success story, overcoming childhood obesity and a debilitating stutter to become a football phenomenon. But beneath the inspiring facade lay the foundations of a complex, troubled figure, whose rise to glory would be matched only by his spectacular fall from grace. The warning signs were there from the beginning, hidden behind spectacular athletic achievements. At Johnson County High School, Walker rushed for an astounding 3,167 yards in his senior year, leading the Trojans to their first state championship. His dominance extended beyond football, winning state titles in the shot put, 100-yard dash, and 220-yard dash. Across his high school career from 1976 to 1979, Walker likely accumulated over 8,000 rushing yards. These superhuman feats earned him the inaugural Dial Award as 1979's National High School Scholar Athlete of the Year. Yet even then, Walker was crafting a carefully constructed image. Years later, his claims of graduating as class valedictorian would be exposed as fabrication, the first thread in a tapestry of self-mythologizing that would eventually unravel. At the University of Georgia, Walker's legend grew alongside his capacity for self-promotion. In just 3 seasons, from 1980 to 1982, he amassed 5,259 rushing yards on 994 carries, scoring 49 rushing touchdowns and averaging 5.3 yards per attempt. His freshman season was extraordinary, 1,616 yards and 15 touchdowns, while helping Georgia capture the national championship. Walker added 1,891 yards and 18 touchdowns in 1981, followed by 1,752 yards and 16 touchdowns in 1981-1982, when he captured the Heisman Trophy. Throughout his collegiate career, Walker averaged a punishing 331 carries per season, a workload that showcased his durability, but perhaps hinted at a reckless disregard for his physical well-being. More troublingly, Walker began crafting falsehoods about his academic achievements, claiming decades later to have graduated in the top 1% of his class, when in reality, he left without a degree to pursue professional football. The first major betrayal in Walker's narrative came in 1983 when, rather than entering the NFL draft, he stunned the football establishment by signing with the fledgling United States Football League's New Jersey Generals. The decision wasn't just about football, it was about money and ego, with Walker securing a then unprecedented $5 million contract. Over 3 USFL seasons, Walker accumulated 5,562 rushing yards on 1,143 carries with 54 touchdowns, while adding 130 receptions for 1,484 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. In his final USFL season in 1985, he rushed for 2,411 yards and 21 touchdowns, earning league MVP honors. When the team's owner, Donald Trump, couldn't sustain the league financially, it collapsed after the 1985 season, leaving Walker to finally enter the NFLL. Walker joined the Dallas Cowboys in 1986, who had anticipated his eventual NFL arrival by selecting him in the 5th round, 114th overall, of the 1985 draft. His first NFL season showcased his versatility: 737 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 76 receptions for 837 yards, and 2 more scores. But trouble was brewing in the Cowboys' backfield. Walker's $5 million 5-year contract exceeded the $4.5 million 5-year deal of established star Tony Dorsett, creating tension. By 1987, Walker was complaining about his role. despite rushing for 891 yards and adding 715 receiving yards. His demands essentially forced Dorsett out of Dallas, with the Cowboys legend demanding a trade that sent him to Denver. In 1988, Walker had his finest NFL season, rushing for 1,514 yards and adding 505 receiving yards. Between 1986 and 1988, Walker averaged 240 carries and 63 receptions per season. But his self-centered approach and contract demands had already cost the Cowboys one franchise legend. Then came the trade that marked Walker's descent, even as it made him fabulously wealthy. 5 games into the 1989 season, Walker was sent to the Minnesota Vikings for 5 players and 6 future draft picks. The deal was marketed as Walker finally getting his due as the centerpiece of a Super Bowl contender. Herschel mania briefly erupted in Minneapolis as Walker received standing ovations from the record Metrodome crowd of 62,075 in his debut against Green Bay. The reality proved far different. Walker never adapted to Minnesota's offensive system, rushing for just 2,264 yards and 20 touchdowns in just over 2 seasons. His averages plummeted to about 183 carries per season, a significant reduction from his Dallas workload. Meanwhile, Dallas used the draft picks from the trade to build a dynasty, selecting cornerstones like Emmitt Smith, Russell Maryland, Kevin Smith, and Darren Woodson. The trade became known as one of the most lopsided in sports history, with Walker cast as both myopic and foolish, the man whose ego led to his own downfall while inadvertently creating a Cowboys dynasty. The Minnesota newspapers cruelly dubbed him Herschel the Turkey as the Vikings failed to reach the Super Bowl during his tenure. Walker's market value diminished with each disappointing season after. The Philadelphia Eagles signed Walker in 1992, hoping he could recover his Dallas form. Yet over 3 seasons, and with his declining numbers, it was clear Walker was no longer elite. Walker spent a forgettable 1995 season with the New York Giants primarily as a kick returner before returning to Dallas for his final 2 seasons, 1996 to 1997. By the time he retired, Walker was viewed less as a football legend and more as a cautionary tale of ego-driven decisions and squandered potential, leaving onlookers to wonder what could have been had he sought growth in the NFL first over the larger payday. The true darkness in Walker's story emerged after his playing days ended. In 2008, Walker revealed he had been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder in 2001, claiming he had developed at least a dozen distinct identities or alters. Walker wrote that some of these alters exhibited violent behavior he couldn't remember afterward. This diagnosis came after Walker sought professional help for being tempted to murder a man who was late delivering a car to him. The revelation helped explain disturbing incidents in Walker's personal life, including reports of domestic violence involving his ex-wife, Cindy DeAngelis Grossman, whom he had married in 1983 and divorced in 2002. Grossman later stated that Walker had held a gun to her head and threatened to blow your brains out. Police reports from 2001 document that Walker was volatile, possessed a weapon, and talked about having a shootout with police during a visit to Grossman's home. In another incident, Walker allegedly threatened to kill both Grossman and his therapist during a therapy session. In 2005, a restraining order was imposed after Walker reportedly threatened to shoot my sister Cindy and her boyfriend in the head. Walker's personal chaos extended beyond his marriage to Grossman. In 2012, a woman named Micah Dean reported to Irving, Texas police that when she attempted to end a 20-year on-off relationship with Walker, he lost it and threatened to blow her head off. During his 2022 political campaign, it was revealed that Walker had 4 children by 4 different women, though he had publicly acknowledged only one son for years. This revelation was particularly damning given Walker's previous public statements about fatherless households being a major problem in African American communities. His son Christian eventually publicly accused Walker of threatening to kill him and his mother. In December 2022, another ex-girlfriend alleged that in 2005, Walker had put his hands on her neck and chest and swung a fist at her during a confrontation. Walker's post-football business career proved just as troubled and deceptive as his personal life. In 2002, He founded Renaissance Man Food Services, a company he frequently described as a mini Tyson Foods, with claimed annual sales of $70 million and over 600 employees. Court documents later revealed far more deflated figures, about $1.5 million in annual profits between 2008 and 2017, with government records indicating just 8 employees when the company applied for COVID-19 relief. Even more troubling, Walker claimed that part of its corporate charter was to donate 15% of profits to charities, yet none of the 4 charities he named confirmed receiving any donations. Walker's entry into politics brought his villainous transformation full circle. After endorsing Donald Trump in the 2016 and 2020 presidential elections, Walker ran for the U.S. Senate in Georgia, despite having lived in Texas for years. His campaign was littered with falsehoods and bizarre statements, including claims about working in law enforcement and having FBI training that were proven false. On climate change, Walker bizarrely stated, "Since we don't control the air, our good air decided to float over to China's bad air, so when China gets our good air, their bad air got to move." Walker lost both the general election and subsequent runoff to Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock. In a final ironic twist, Walker was named by President-elect Donald Trump as his nominee for U.S. Ambassador to the Bahamas in December 2024, just days after finally completing his long-delayed bachelor's degree from the University of Georgia, 42 years after his initial enrollment. The nomination represented the ultimate validation of a career built on falsehoods, violence, and self-promotion. From promising running back to domestic abuser, from USFL defector to destroyer of the Vikings' Super Bowl dreams, from self-proclaimed business mogul to purveyor of election conspiracy theories, Herschel Walker's journey represents the darkest version of the American dream, where athletic talent and unscrupulous ambition combine to create not a hero, but a villain who leaves destruction in his wake while continually failing upward somehow. The overweight kid with a stutter from Wrightsville, Georgia, had indeed transformed himself, but into something far darker than the inspirational figure he pretended to be.